So, thank you for that introduction. My name is Ella, and I study BA Fashion, Knitwear Design, and Textiles at Nottingham Trent. Oh, sorry. Oh, that was the time. And my focus for my whole final year work has been to do with the fabric madras and the history of it. So I want to jump into my paper first and talk about that. So when we talk about madras, we're referring to this fabric on the left, which is figure 1, and it's used within a lot of different cultures. So through my research, I kind of learned how originally it was a hand-woven fabric from Madras, which is now known as Chennai in India. And there were two types of Madras. One was called bleeding Madras, which is figure 2 down here, which is natural dyes, and the other Madras is a more synthetic dye. So I focused on like the fabric and how that was used. From there, that fabric was used to trade a lot with Africa, especially the west coast of Africa. And one tribe that particularly used Madras was the Kalabari tribe in the Niger Delta. And they were about transforming the fabric and creating peel-it bite out of it, which you can see in figure 3 here, which is a really nice picture of how they manipulated the fabric and changed it. And for me, I realized that this was quite a really nice way of appreciating the fabric. And as it was used for trade and a way to express prestige through each of the different tribal families, it was a really nice way for them to transform it. From there, that was from the early 1600s. And then since then, through the transatlantic slave trade, the fabric was used to trade slaves between Africa and the Caribbean. And that's how you can see in figure 4 and 5, it became part of a really strong part of the Caribbean culture, because the fabric was almost left to the enslaved people, and it was the only fabric that they were able to wear. So they wore for celebrations, Sunday services, that kind of changed from their own everyday wear. And this is a way for them to appreciate this fabric that they were given, but also forced upon them. From the Caribbean in the early 1900s, the Americans started traveling a lot to the Caribbean due to their extra wealth and funds, and they started wearing madras to show that they were almost cultured and they were of the world, and this was a way to also show prestige in their society. But through this, madras started to become preppy because it became a fashion statement and a trend. Rather than something to express their culture, it was more of a way to show how elite and how high class you were as you were able to travel. Through this, Ralph Lauren started designing using the madras with the inspiration of this collegiate elite culture. And from there, that collegiate and elite culture has almost overshadowed the Caribbean culture through contemporary fashion today. And in each stage, every single community built an identity through it. However, when you look at the identity, it depends whether it has been appropriated or whether it has simply been adopted into the culture. This is one of the quotes that really helped me throughout my research, through my dissertation, and then onto my conference paper. So the quote is by Ballinger and Hamlin in 2018, which states, "Humans can't help but be influenced by these encounters. Our neurobiology dictates that we absorb, reflect, recall, reimagine, reuse these elements, fitting them into our own experiential myths." And I felt like this quote really helped me analyze the idea that it may not be our choice to absorb or adopt a certain culture, because that is the experience that we have chosen to make. But there's also an argument within contemporary fashion where although it is about absorbing, reflecting, recalling, and reimagining, you should also respect the history and where it came from. So now, looking at the contemporary uses of madras, I started to focus on Gucci's Resort 2020 collection. And when I saw this and I looked at the Gucci website, it was described as Madras. A lot of their pieces for this collection was described as Madras, which was quite interesting. And some of them are currently still on the Gucci website. And I compared these to fashion designers from both India and the Caribbean. So in this figure 13, this is by Hassan Shah, and you can see that this is a Madras shirt, which looks like one of the original uses of Madras. And in figure 12, you can see this Madras skirt designed by Regal, which is made by Gianna Christopher. And she is based in the Virgin Islands. And when coming to compare both these kind of designs, you can see the visual aesthetic is very similar. When looking back and deeper into it, I found out that the Gucci resort was described as very 70s nostalgia and very bohemian in the styling. And this linked back to the Ralph Lauren, because the original Ralph Lauren shirts and jackets derived from the 1970s, when that was made into one of the original kind of pieces and more of the trademark piece of Ralph Lauren. So the idea that this styling and this aesthetic has stemmed from the 70s really proves that the collegiate styling and collegiate use of Madras has completely overshadowed history from India, Africa, and the Caribbean. And this contrast between this high-end designer, which is well known, versus these smaller companies, which are well known within their own right. However, they have not been able to push as far as Gucci, as it is such a well-known high-end brand. And it's quite interesting when reading into the original Madras Trading Company. The owner has taken the original Madras and wants to mix it with the Western uses of Madras, which is really a nice way to bring all both identities together and view it in a different way. And this bell hooks quote really helped kind of explain how the use is crucial when it comes to cultural appropriation, because the cultural appropriation is not synonymous with exploitation. So they are not equal in many ways. However, it is how you use it. And it can be said that Gucci and focusing on the collegiate use of Madras really can be similar to exploitation, as the use is about making money and funds and promoting wealth, as it's a high-end fashion brand, and the aim and the market is higher end and more wealthy people, that there is an edge of exploitation within that. Whereas other designers from the tradition and showing their heritage, they are showing their heritage and really celebrating and promoting their culture, which was something that was an argument between each other. However, when coming to look at, when coming to look at that, there's an argument against that, saying, looking at Malik's quote, saying, at the heart of criticism of cultural appropriation is a relationship between gatekeeping and identity. And the question with this is whether or not designers of color or designers from specific heritages have the right to wholly gatekeep a whole culture and heritage away from any designer that is not from that heritage. And through my research and talking to talking to Telika Kirkland of the Costume Institute of the African Diaspora specifically, she specifically stated that although the fabric itself is owned, it started from India, so it almost belongs to India. The identity created throughout is really important to take in and look at when talking about the idea of gatekeeping, because each area, each community has created an identity. So whether or not whether it has been overshadowed by the collegiates for one reason or another have a reason to own and to wear that because they've created an identity around the Madras. In the Caribbean, they have right to wear it because they've created an identity around Madras and really delve deep into their society, which I know very dear because that is my own culture. And Africa has had the right to use it because a lot of the tribes were able to trade and that was open to them. And India was able to use it because it originated from them and the hand-woven fabric is their craft. So that is where my research has taken me. And I feel like in further movements forward, gatekeeping of cultural design would definitely be a very interesting topic to keep looking at through my studies as I go into my master's in fashion and looking at different design practices. Thank you.